Today we're going to review Emerson Lake and Palmer's Brain Salad Surgery from 1973. And so let's start with the obvious right away. What does brain salad surgery mean? Which is what I always ask myself. Well, it goes back to an expression called whip some skull on you. And what does whip some skull on you mean? That is, whip some skull on you is fellatio. And I want to read this to you from Wikipedia. The album title was changed to Brain Salad Surgery, which has the same meaning as whip some skull on you. The phrase was probably taken from the song Right Place, Wrong Time by Dr. John, which had been a hit single in summer of 73 and contains the line, I've been running, trying to get hung up in my mind. Got to give myself a little talking to this time. Just need a little brain salad surgery. Got to cure this insecurity. So that's the mystery. The mystery's been solved. This album was released on December 7th, 1973. And this will be the last album that we cover from 73, I believe. It's 5 songs, and it's divided into 8 tracks. And it's 45 minutes long. 29 minutes of it is the epic tale Karn Evil 9, which is tracks 5, 6, 7, and 8. Or Carnival. I always say Karn Evil because that's how it's spelled, but it's Carnival 9. And the album cover is by H.R. Geiger. And H.R. Geiger, if you don't know, he's got some history. H.R. Geiger is the person that designed the alien from the movies Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, all those movies. He designed the aliens, and he does these really evil. This person, you can see this is a lady, and just give me 1 second here. I'm just gonna pull up this picture here. This is can you guys see this? That's the lady underneath. That's what she looks like. And what they did was they made this almost like the lady's in a tomb, or, and you can see the skull. And you see where the nose lines up, the nose hole and all that. On the bottom here it says ELP. And this looks it's kind of scary. By the way, this is a remaster, and on the back it says Brain Salad Surgery, and it's got the names of the tracks and how they're divided into 8 tracks. But H.R. Geiger, going back to H.R. Geiger also did Danzig 3, which is this scary-looking aliens. I'll just show you what that looks like here. You got the serpent. They went out of their way to cover up the serpent. I think it was supposed to be the ELP on the bottom here, but there's supposed to be a serpent in this one too. Anyway, that's the album cover. So very scary. And, you would expect that the music would be scary, but it's not. It sounds like an ELP record. What's different about the sound of Brain Salad Surgery, they lost engineer Eddie Alford to Yes. He becomes the Yes full-time producer or co-producing with Yes. And now what ELP has done is they've gone out, they've created their own label called Manticore, and they had some complications with that, but they got their own label and their own studio, and they hired new engineers, and they produced their own album. And of course, Greg Lake is the producer, as he produced all their albums. And honestly, it doesn't sound too differently from the other albums like ELP or Tarkus or Trilogy. It's maybe a little bit more serious, but it's got the jovial, happy, big Emerson feel to it. And so I wouldn't go out of my way. I was originally thinking that this was going to be like a real dark album, but it's not. It's not. The content is dark because they brought in Pete Sinfield from King Crimson to help with the lyrics. What I want to say is shout out to YouTube channels Piano Bob, Matthew Province, and Everyone Loves Potatoes, because they provided the sheet music and the score to several of these songs to help me with the analysis. And so what I was doing was I was watching with my eyes and listening with my ears as the score would scroll by. What I'll do is I'll leave the links in the description, but it's for Jerusalem is Matthew Province's channel. Carnival 9 First Impression Part 1 is Piano Bob. Piano Bob also did Carnival 9 Second Impression. And then the third impression is Everyone Loves Potatoes channel, and I'll leave you guys the links in the description. I'll probably even post it in a post. You can go back and watch for yourself, but it's quite fun. Let's get right into it. The first track is Jerusalem. It's written by Perry and Blake, and it's 2 minutes and 46 seconds. And this is a cover. This song features Greg Lake's vocals and a grand church organ played by Keith Emerson. And it's the unofficial anthem of England, and which is fitting because these guys are like super English. But what I'll do is the link to Jerusalem. So what I did was I listened to this and I watched them play Jerusalem, the score. In the score YouTube version, there's no drums, guitars, or vocals, which is different from what you actually hear on the album. But when you watch the YouTube video, you're only hearing the organ, the big church organ, and the keyboards. For this track, it's in the key of F major, and that's according to the Matthew Province channel. And it's 73 beats per minute and in 4/4 time. Although it changes to 2/4 time and 3/4 time occasionally. At 1 minute and 3 seconds, it switches to 5/4 time for one measure. And the verse is, and in those feet in ancient time, walk upon England's mountains green. And it's just, that's the song. It's like verse, 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 verse. It's 4 verses, and that's Jerusalem. And it's just a big church organ with Greg Lake's vocals behind it. Which, by the way, Greg Lake, his vocals are super. Track 2 is Toccata, written by Ginastera, and it's 7 minutes and 20 seconds long. Wikipedia says a toccata is a classical piece intended to show off the skill and touch of a pianist. In this case, Emerson has adopted a 1961 classical piece called Toccata Concertata by the Argentine composer Alberto Ginastera. The electric drum sound during the middle section of the track was achieved by placing a microphone in each of the drums to trigger a small synthesizer each time the drum was struck. And you can clearly hear that as it's playing along. Toccata does a real fast da 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 da, and at the 5 minutes and 7 mark is when Emerson goes into full-blown video game mode, like a whistle, like. At the 5:46 mark, Palmer is doing the wipeout drums, especially around the 6 minute mark, and Toccata's an instrumental, and that's the track Toccata. Track 3, Still You Turn on Me, written by Greg Lake, is 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Opens right away with some arpeggiated guitar and the first verse sung by Greg Lake. No drums or percussions in this song. I think Palmer's just hitting a tambourine or something. It's in the key of D minor, according to Chordify. Sheet music now has it scored in C major, but the first chord is a D minor and lots of G major. It's a moderate tempo. It's mostly in 4/4 time, but an occasional 2/4 will pop up. The verse is, do you want to be an angel? Do you want to be a star? It's 8 bars plus a 1 bar to get you to the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus is, do you want to be the lover of another undercover? It's a typical Greg Lake lyric. And it's 12 bars. And then the third part of the song is the chorus. You see, it really doesn't matter when you're buried in disguise. And the chorus is about 12 bars. And that's pretty much the whole entire song. It's a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. And it's one of the more... It's a very Greg Lake-like song. It doesn't have a big Keith Emerson influence on it with all these keyboards everywhere. It's one of their more traditional, beautiful pieces. Track 4 is Benny the Bouncer. It's written by Lake and Emerson and Pete Sinfield from King Crimson fame. 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Sinfield helped with the lyrics on an agreement he had with Greg Lake. The lead vocals are by Karl Palmer. It's in the key of D major, according to Ultimate Guitar, and it's 150 beats per minute in 4/4 time. The verse is, Benny was the bouncer at the Palace de Dance. He'd slash your granny's face up given half a chance. It's 12 bars. And the way Karl Palmer sings it, he's kind of like, I wouldn't say screaming, but more like shouting it out. He's not really singing it in a beautiful Greg Lake type voice. The chorus is, oh, what a terrible sight, much to the people's delight, one hell of a fight. It's 8 bars, sounds like, that part sounds like Greg Lake is singing it. And I'm not sure, and I never got confirmation on that. The instrumental break runs from 55 seconds to 1 minute 32. It's about 37 seconds total. it's a piano ditty, and you can hear crashing and fighting in the background, but eventually that stops. And that, that's sort of like the whole theme of the song is Benny the Bouncer's fighting. I don't like to dig too deep into the meaning of the lyrics on songs, but it seems to be Benny is the bouncer of a bar, and he's beating people up. The bridge is Sidney grabbed a hatchet, buried in Benny's head. The people grasped as he bled. The end of Ted, ? It's 8 bars. And Benny the Bouncer is verse, verse, chorus. The instrumental break, that's about 37 seconds long. And then a bridge, and then the verse. And that's Benny the Bouncer. Okay, now we're getting to the carnival part, which is really one long 29-minute song. But what they did was they divided it up into tracks 5, 6, 7, and 8. And track 5 hangs on. I guess if you would have this on vinyl, track 5 is on the first half, and then you'd flip it over, and track 6 would start with Carnival 9 First Impression Part 2. But the first part is Carnival 9 First Impression Part 1, which was written by Lake, Emerson, and Sinfield help with the lyrics. It's 8 minutes and 36 seconds. And I won't get too deep into the meaning of the song Carnival, but it seems to be a carnival, like See the Show is what Greg Lake sings. But it's also telling the story of nuclear annihilation. And it's a real Pete Sinfield treat, a real concept piece. It's a master epic at about 29 minutes total. And I'll leave the link to Carnival 9 First Impression Part 1, the YouTube channel. And, it's pretty interesting to listen to it and then to watch the music score go by and to count all the bars and all that, which is how I did this. Carnival 9 First Impression Part 1 is in the key of B major, according to Piano Bob's channel. And it's in 4/4 time, but there's a lot of time changes from 5/4, 3/4, 9/8, 7/8, everything really. And it's a very fast tempo the entire song. The verse is cold and misty morning, I heard a warning born in the air. And the verses are 16 bars in this part. And the chorus is I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. It's 2 bars in 3/4 time and 1 bar in 2/4 time. And then there's a jam part at 58 seconds to 1:37, or about 39 seconds total. And then there's 2 other jams, or breaks, I guess you'd call them. There's a second break at 2:09 to 2 minutes and 57 seconds, which is about 48 seconds. And then there's a third one at 3:34, which runs from 3:34 to 5 minutes and 23 seconds, which is it's the longest one in Impression Part 1. It's a 1 minute and 49 seconds total. There's a bridge in First Impression Part 1. The bridge starts to heal their sorrow, to beg and borrow, fight tomorrow. It's a 6-bar quick bridge. And then the refrain is, roll up, roll up, roll up, see the show. That's the whole Carnival Barker part of it. It's 8 bars, the refrain. And First Impression Part 1 has a very complicated song arrangement or structure to get it to, 8 minutes, 8.5, almost 9 minutes long. It's verse, chorus, first break, verse, chorus, second break, verse, chorus, bridge, that third break, which is the longest break, the refrain, which is the roll up part, and then verse, refrain, outro. And the outro has a guitar solo. Track 6 is Carnival 9, First Impression Part 2, which takes you to the second half of the album. And it's written by Lake and Emerson, 4 minutes and 46 seconds. It's in the key of A flat major. And Chordify.com says that. And also musicnotes.com. But it could be an F minor, which is the minor variant of A flat major. It's bright rock, and it's in 4/4 time. But that real bright rock tempo, it's real fast. The verses, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. It's a 16-bar verses. And verses 1, 3, and 4 are 16 bars. The chorus is, come inside, the show's about to start, guaranteed to blow your head apart. I guess that's the brain salad surgery part, right? It's a 24 bars. And verse 2 is only 8 bars, and chorus 2 is only 16 bars. So they did that just to speed up the song, but it fits the structure of the song. There's an instrumental break, which serves as a keyboard solo predominantly. It starts from 1 minute, 7 seconds to 2 minutes, 57 seconds. Probably the best part of the song, or probably the best part of the whole album, really. It's 1 minute, 50 seconds long. And it's just an opportunity for Emerson to do his thing. There's a drum solo, which is very quick at 2 minutes and 57 seconds to 3 minutes and 2 seconds. But, it's only about 5 seconds long, but it's... The refrain is roll up, roll up, roll up, see the show. That comes back, and it's the same as the first impression part 1. It's an 8-bar refrain. And then the instrumental break, it's like a guitar solo. That instrumental break is, and with the guitar solo, is a real fast break and solo. And then there's an outro, which is the see the show part. And first impression part 2 is a verse, chorus, break, verse, refrain, verse, chorus, break with the guitar solo, and then the outro. And that's Carnival 9, first impression part 2. Track 7 is Carnival 9, second impression, written by Emerson. It's 7 minutes and 6 seconds. And this is an instrumental. It's one of them where I can give you the link to Piano Bob's YouTube channel, where you can listen to the instrumental and then watch the music score go by in time. It's actually quite cool to do that and to count it out. It's in the key of F minor, or predominantly in F minor or A flat major, which is the minor relative. F minor is the minor relative to A flat major, if that makes sense to you. Piano Bob also shows us one notated in C major, A major, and C flat major, which is 7 sharps, which I don't think I've ever seen that before, is 7 sharps in the key signature. And around the 5-minute mark, there's 3 flats, which is the A flat, and it jumps to 4/8 time and then 3/8 time. Most of the song is written in 4/4 time, but there are spots where it changes to 5/16, 7/16, and 12/16. And that, that really gives it that super proggy, progressive rock type feel to it, with the constant, not constant, but changing time signatures really adds to the effect of prog rock. And like I said, Carnival 9, second impression, this is an instrumental part of the song. And it's long at 7 minutes. Track 8 is Carnival 9, third impression, and it's written by Lake, Emerson, and Sinfield. Sinfield wrote the lyrics, and it's 9 minutes and 4 seconds long. And again, this is in the key of A flat major or F minor. And it's 120 beats per minute in 4/4 time, predominantly in 4/4 time. The verse is, man alone, born of stone, will stamp the dust of time. And it's an 8-bar verse. And then the chorus is, fear that rattles in men's ears and rears its hideous head, dread death in the wind. It's 8 bars. And then the bridge part of the song is, no man yields who flies in my ship. Danger, let the bridge computer speak. Danger. It's over 40 bars at that tempo. It's a da 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 is how it goes, and it's really the narrator is speaking to the computer. Okay, there's an instrumental break at 2 minutes and 57 seconds to 7 minutes and 38 seconds. It's predominantly a keyboard solo on what sounds like a synth, probably a Moog or something like that. And that is very long at 4 minutes and 45 seconds long. The last part of the song is the outro. And Lake is singing, I'm all there is negative, primitive, limited, let you live. And that starts at 7 minutes and 58 seconds to the end. And it's basically the narrators and the computer are having a conversation, I guess, about the nuclear annihilation. At 8 minutes and 33 seconds, the song turns into repeating synth notes. That's speed up, sort of in the vein of On the Run, like on Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. It's not exactly like that, but I can't think of another example where it's just like, and it speeds up. Sort of like a countdown. I guess it reminds me of, if you've ever seen the end of the movie Predator, when the Predator sets the watch and then blows himself up in his ship. It's like a countdown to a blow up. Pretty ominous, actually. Carnival 9, third impression. The song structure is verse, chorus, bridge, that keyboard solo, and then verse and outro. In summary, even before we get to the summary, like that's the thing that I have stuck in my head after listening to this for the last 2 weeks to do this review. It took me a lot to do this review, but it was kind of fun. The sales for Brain Salad Surgery were excellent. It reached number 2 in the UK and number 11 in the United States, number 10 in Canada. It sold 652,000 copies, which I think is a lot. It's good for number 66 in 1973, and that's number 3 overall for ELP. Their number 3rd best-selling album. But a lot of ELP fans would say this is their best one or their favorite one, and you might even think that this is the best one. Some people will say Tarkus, but you'll hear this a lot. ProgArchives.com is giving it a 4.17, which is outside the top 100. I wouldn't look at their top 100. The lowest score in the top 100 is a 4.24, and there are a bunch of in like the bottom 10 of the top 100 in the 90s with that score, including the ELP debut album is their highest scoring one at 4.24, which is number 93. I think that was their... maybe Tarkus is higher. I should go back and look. But this one does not crack the top 100, even though a lot of ELP fans would say this is their best one. AllMusic.com gave it a 4.5 rating, which is, I think, fair. And Rolling Stone in 1979 gave it a 4. It's a really different album to listen to, especially with such a long, epic suite like Carnival 9. But honestly, it doesn't feel too much different from Tarkus or the other albums that I mentioned. It's just like ELP, it's fascinating because it's super duper prog rock. And a lot of it is keyboard heavy by Keith Emerson. Greg Lake's amazing vocals and bass playing and guitar playing, and Palmer's there doing his thing. But it's just it's a typical ELP record and one of their better ones, I'd say. Okay, that's it. Next up on the channel will be Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes, and then after that, Kiss. We're going to do a Kiss album.